In early 2026, the world watched as a new war erupted in the Middle East, drawing in powerful nations. The United States and Israel joined forces against Iran, a formidable regional power. This was no proxy war. Major cities and strategic sites became battlegrounds. Advanced technology dominated drones, missiles, cyber attacks, and naval clashes. The conflict spanned from the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf, shaking global stability. For millions, daily life was upended overnight. Schools closed, markets shuttered, families sought shelter. The world's attention was riveted by images of fire and chaos. The war's scale and intensity signaled a new era of direct high-stakes confrontation. The air was thick with uncertainty, as leaders and citizens alike braced for the unknown. This was not just a regional crisis. Its consequences rippled across the globe. The world held its breath, aware that the path forward was fraught with danger. The opening salvos marked only the beginning of a conflict that would reshape history. Every war has a trigger. Here, the US and Israel claimed Iran was on the brink of building nuclear weapons. Years of failed diplomacy and broken agreements had eroded trust. Leaders in Washington and Jerusalem insisted that military action was the only way to prevent catastrophe. They presented evidence of secret facilities and accused Iran of supporting hostile groups across the region. The strikes were described as self-defense, not aggression, a painful but necessary step. Iran, for its part, denied the accusations and condemned the attacks as unjustified. The decision to strike set off a chain reaction with unpredictable consequences. The world watched anxiously as the region slid deeper into conflict. The gamble was enormous. Would these attacks prevent a greater disaster or unleash one? The stakes were global as the first missiles flew and alliances were tested. The spark had been lit and the fire was spreading fast. The next moves would determine the fate of millions. Unlike past proxy wars, this conflict was direct and brutal. No longer fought through allies in distant lands, the war now struck at the heart of Iran, Israel, and US interests. Major cities and military bases became targets, shattering any sense of safety. The rules had changed. Capitals were now within reach of enemy fire. Armies, navies, and air forces clashed openly, raising the risk of uncontrollable escalation. The cycle of attack and retaliation intensified, with each side responding in real time. Civilians faced the terror of explosions and uncertainty as war arrived at their doorsteps. The shift from shadowy proxy battles to open warfare marked a turning point in modern history. Old strategies had failed. The buffer of indirect conflict was gone. Now every move carried the risk of spiraling into wider chaos. The world watched a dangerous dance, hoping for restraint. The stakes had never been higher. The possibility of catastrophe loomed over every decision. Iran struck back with force, targeting the Persian Gulf's vital oil routes. Fast boats, sea mines and missiles turned the Gulf into a war zone, threatening global energy supplies. Oil tankers and naval ships came under attack, sending shockwaves through world markets. Iran's message was clear. If it suffered, so would the world economy. Strikes on oil infrastructure in neighbouring countries caused massive fires and disruptions. Drones and cruise missiles hit key facilities, making headlines worldwide. Each attack reminded the world of its dependence on Middle Eastern oil. Iran's strategy was asymmetric, using unconventional tactics to offset its military disadvantages. By targeting the economy, Iran globalized the conflict. The war was no longer regional. It affected anyone reliant on energy. Iran's retaliation forced the world to pay attention. The Gulf's calm waters had become a front line. The stakes for global stability had never been clearer. The war's first global casualty was the price of oil. Attacks on tankers and refineries sent prices soaring, fueling panic in markets worldwide. Everyday life changed. Gasoline and heating costs spiked, straining family budgets. Businesses faced higher expenses, leading to rising prices for goods and services. Economic growth slowed as energy costs rippled through every sector. Governments scrambled to stabilize markets, releasing emergency reserves and seeking alternatives. But solutions were slow. The world's economy was tied to the conflict's outcome. The war's reach extended far beyond the battlefield, touching lives on every continent. The lesson was stark. In a connected world, regional wars can trigger global crises. The economic shock underscored the fragility of modern supply chains. The fate of millions now hinged on events in the Middle East. The Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, were caught in the crossfire. Long reliant on US protection, they now faced Iran's wrath for hosting American bases. Their oil fields and cities became targets for missiles and drones. Massive investments in defense could not guarantee safety. Leaders faced impossible choices: support the US fully or seek dialogue with Iran to protect their own interests. Internal divisions grew as some pushed for confrontation, others for caution. The war shattered the illusion that wealth could buy security. Ordinary citizens, once insulated from conflict, now lived with fear and uncertainty. The Gulf states walked a tightrope with disaster on either side. Their predicament showed how regional wars can force neighbours to take sides or risk destruction. The balance of power in the region was shifting. Survival now depended on diplomacy as much as military might. In the US, the war sparked fierce debate. The administration argued it was necessary for national security, but critics saw echoes of past costly wars. Protests erupted, with many demanding peace and questioning the war's justification. Congress was divided. Some supported the president, others challenged the legality and wisdom of the conflict. Hearings demanded clear strategies and accountability. War fatigue shaped public opinion. Many Americans were weary of endless interventions. The debate exposed deep divisions about America's role in the world. Allies and adversaries alike watched for signs of unity or weakness. The nation struggled to balance security with the costs of war. The conflict forced Americans to confront hard questions about priorities and values. The battle abroad was mirrored by a battle of ideas at home. The outcome would shape US policy for years to come. For Israel, the war was existential. Iran's nuclear ambitions were seen as a direct threat. Israeli leaders acted decisively, aiming to dismantle Iran's nuclear program and degrade its military. Precision strikes targeted key facilities, hoping to neutralize the danger swiftly. The strategy was high risk, betting on a quick, decisive blow. Iran, knowing it couldn't win a conventional war, turned to asymmetric tactics. It activated proxy groups across the region, opening multiple fronts against Israel and the US. Disrupting oil supplies and launching attacks from Lebanon to Yemen, Iran aimed to stretch its enemies thin. Iran's goal survival and leverage for a negotiated settlement. By making the war costly for all, Iran hoped to force a compromise. The struggle was not for quick victory, but for endurance. Both sides gambled with the future of the region. This war marked a turning point. Direct conflict between major powers, with nuclear fears resurfacing. The world was reminded how quickly order can unravel, echoing past crises like the Yom Kippur War and Cuban Missile Crisis. The disruption of oil and global supply chains became a weapon of war. Regional powers like Iran showed they could challenge superpowers with new tactics. Economic interdependence, once a force for peace, now amplified the conflict's impact. The world's fragility was laid bare as events in one region shook every continent. As of March 2026, the outcome remained uncertain. Leaders faced choices that would shape generations. Would diplomacy prevail, or would escalation continue? The world watched, hoping for peace, but fearing catastrophe. History was being written in real time, its lessons yet to be learned.